Hey everyone, welcome to the Jazz Piano School Podcast, episode number 32. Hope everyone's doing well, and I thank you so much for listening to the podcast. My name is Brendan Lowe, and I'm excited to be here and doing this podcast today. In the last podcast, I showed you how to play Rootless Voicings Structure 1. Now in this episode, I'm going to show you how to do Rootless Voicing Structure 2. So there's going to be two structures that you're going to learn to start out with initially. Now, if you haven't learned Structure 1, go learn Structure 1 because Structure 2 is going to make no sense. So, Structure 1, again, just to review, we started with certain degrees of the chord. So over a 2-5-1 in any key, over the minor 7 chord, the 2 chord, you're going to play 3-5-7-9. So in the key of C, our 2 chord is the D minor 7. So we are going to play 3-5-7-9 of our D minor 7 chord. Now D is the root, right? So here's 3-5-7-9. Now notice the components of, again, this rootless voicing. We have the shells in the middle. Shells are always important. Then we have 5 and 9, right? And our shells are simply voice leading through the 3 and 7 to 7 and 3, then back to 3 and 7. Okay, so we start with 3 on the bottom, 7 on the top of our D minor 7, going to 7-3 of the G chord, then 3 and 7 are our C major 7 chord. Okay, so we're voice leading our shells, but we're adding notes in the middle now, right? So we're adding our 5 and 9 to the first chord, so we have 3-5-7-9. I always like to play the bass note just so you guys can hear the harmonies there. Then we go to our G7 chord, or the 5, Roman numeral 5 in the key of C. Now the degrees for this one are 7, 9, 3, 5, right? So we have 7 and 3 for our shells, and we also have 9 and 13. Okay, so that's the degrees over our 5 chords, 7, 9, 3, and 13. Then we're back to the first degrees, 3, 5, 7, 9 of our C major 7. Okay? So that is Rootless Voicing Structure 1. Now all we're going to do is take inversions of that. We're going to take the inversion, one of the inversions of that same exact chord, but we're going to flip it. All right? So instead of 3 and 7 for our 2 chord, 3 being on the bottom, and 7 being on the top with the other notes in the middle, A and E, right? In this case for our D minor 7. We are going to start with 7 on the bottom of the 2 chord and 3 in the middle. All right, for our 2 minor 7. So in this case, over our D minor 7, we're going to start with 7, 9, 3, and 5. So before we had 3, 5, 7, 9. Now we're just shifting it up 2 inversions, okay? The first inversion we're not using yet. We're shifting it up 2 inversions, so we have 7, 9, 3, and 5. So we're just rearranging the notes a little bit. So our shells are now voice leading as follows. 7 and 3. Of our D minor 7, going to 3 and 7 of our G7, going back to 7 and 3, okay? Right, so it's just flip-flop. Before we had 3 and 7, going to 7 and 3, going to 3 and 7. Now we have 7 and 3, going to 3 and 7, going to 7 and 3, okay? And again, so the degrees for our minor 7 chord, our 2 chord, are 7, 3, 5, 7, 9, 3, 5, okay? Now, we're going to move the same note we moved in our Rootless Voicing Structure 1, but since it's on the bottom, all we're going to do is move our pinky in our left hand. If we're playing the chords with our left hand, we'll move our pinky down a half step to the note B in this case, and so that's going to be the third now, right, of our G chord. So we have 7, 13, wow, I'm sorry guys. Screwing up all over the place here. 3, 13, 7, 9. So let me do that again for you so that it doesn't get confusing. Our 2 minor 7 chord is 7, 9, 3, 5. Our pinky moves down a half step. Now our new degrees for our 5, 7 chord are 3, 13, 7, 9. Then we, just like Rootless Voicing Structure 1, we end with the same degrees. So over our major 7 chord, we're going to end with 7, 9, 3, 5. 7, 9, 3, 5 over our C major 7. All right? So all we're going to do is use that structure and practice it the same way we did for our rootless voicing structure 1. So again, we're starting with 7. Here's my right hand doing it. My left hand's playing the bass notes. So that's in the key of C. Now I'll go to the key of F. So a little trick about this is to remember that you have a half step rub in the middle of your minor 7 chord and the dominant, and then the major turns to a whole step actually. Now I can use these same voicings just like I did my other rootless voicings when I'm soloing and things like that, right? So a bass player would be walking, right? Ba-doom, boom, boom. Let me comp a little bit actually, and you can hear how this structure sounds too. Last time. Okay, so that's rootless voicing structure 2. And you really, really want to practice both structures. Just like practice them so much, because in both hands too. All right, and use your left hand for your bass notes. Roots, all you're doing is just playing the roots in your left hand, so D, G, C. And when you go to the new key, like key of F, you play G, your minor, C, and then F. You're just playing roots in your left hand. These chords are going to be like your gateway. This is like your gateway drug, okay? I'm not saying like do drugs, but I'm saying like this is going to open up the doors into everything that you could possibly want for voicings and extensions. And it's really going to allow you to start building your repertoire on extensions and your voicings. And this is the very first step. Like, this is the key. Okay, I can't stress that enough. So if you're trying to skip over this step, your rootless voicings, to learn extensions and like where your flat 9 goes, it's going to be so much more difficult. Okay, so by learning this, everything's going to get easier. But if you're skipping around, like how do I play these voicings and add these extensions, and you don't know these basic structures, it's so difficult to start throwing that in. You know, it's almost impossible to teach. You're just basically guessing at that point, and you're not going to make progress, and you're going to be frustrated. So practice rootless voicing structure 1 and practice rootless voicing structure 2 in all keys, okay, until you're super comfortable. And in the upcoming episodes, I'm going to show you some other techniques, probably maybe 3 or 4 episodes down the line. I'm going to get into some other topics, but I'm going to show you how to isolate the voicings and how to voice lead these rootless voicings to play tunes, so that you're using these voicings in your tunes now, okay, and applying them to your repertoire. So that was a really quick episode, guys, but that's all I really need. That's rootless voicing structure 2. Again, if you have comments, leave them in the comment section on the podcast, jazzpianoschool.com/podcast/episode 32, I believe. Episode 32. So that's it. Hope everyone's doing well, and thanks for listening, and happy practicing.